Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of SacTown Movie Buffs. Once again, I'm Kier, and this is Jason. And today we are doing another interview. So we actually both had a chance to review a streaming documentary, which is called The Orange Years, a Nickelodeon story. Which was something that we both greatly enjoyed. We'll attach the review that we did for this along with the interview. But we actually have one of the directors here who is Scott Barber. And so we'll be talking with him in just a few moments, just in terms of inspiration about the film, maybe get some insight into his background, as well as some future projects that he may be working on. Don't want to go into a full review because we'll have that linked as well. But just real quick, what was your overall impression of the documentary itself, Jason?
Oh, I really enjoyed it. I mean, like a lot of kids our age, we're both. I turned 43 today. You're still 42 for a couple of months.
Yes, happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, a lot of people our age and a few years older, younger, have a lot of really strong memories associated with Nickelodeon, and we're no different. I grew up watching Double Dare and dreaming of being on Double Dare someday, and of course it never happened. But it's a really well done documentary. It taught, I think, both of us a lot of things about the history of the channel that we didn't know. So yeah, it's just a real good time for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Same sentiment here as well. It was just like, it was kind of like a time capsule for me because, I'd forgotten about a lot of those shows. And so when I was watching the documentary, it was just kind of a refresher and reminder of a lot of the shows that I had forgotten that I watched as a kid. I was like, that's right. I used to love that show. Whatever happened to that show? You know what I mean? So it was kind of cool to be able to do the time capsule on that. So I think it was great. Without further ado, I say we just kind of bring Scott on in here. So I'm going to go ahead and just bring this down, and we'll bring him in and chat with him for a moment or two and kind of get some insight into, the documentary itself. And there he is. There's Scott. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're great, man. We're great. And like I said,
Cool.
Once again, we appreciate you being on the show and allowing us an opportunity to interview you here regarding your film. So like I said, we just kind of talked for a brief moment. We actually did a review for the film, which we'll link to this as well. But we both enjoyed it. We're both kind of kids of the 80s. We were, born in 78, but we kind of grew up in the 80s. And so I think any kid that was kind of an 80s baby, basically, Nickelodeon was kind of a staple for us. I used to watch it before I went to school in the morning. I used to watch it in the evenings. And so we just kind of really grew up watching Nickelodeon. And as I said previously, I had forgotten about a lot of those shows that were highlighted in the documentary. And you guys pretty much covered pretty much all of them, starting from the very beginning with Pinwheel, which I didn't even know was associated with Nickelodeon when I first watched it, all the way up until, almost basically present day with like SpongeBob and that sort of stuff. So.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks to you guys for having me here. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be on the show. And
absolutely.
Thanks for watching the film too. I appreciate that. I was also excited about, the earlier, you can't do that on television, Double Dare and stuff like that. That was my stuff. Some of the later shows I had to research because it was after I had already, grown up and was on to MTV and stuff like that.
Right.
So it was an honor to get to make this, and it's funny. A lot of times we get grief from some of the more '80s kids because not focusing on as many '80s shows. Dave Coulier's first show on there. One guy was like, "I can't believe you guys didn't focus on that. This is the worst movie I've ever seen."
Not Dave Coulier.
And we're like, sorry, it just wasn't. It was real difficult because, like you said, we do focus on a lot of shows, but we picked shows. Ultimately, we're telling the story of Nickelodeon and how it went from zero to juggernaut. Right. And we had to pick shows and movements that did that were game changing. So there were some shows that were good, but they just kind of weren't necessarily like a game changing show. And so they weren't featured as heavily as some other ones were. Obviously Double Dare, you can't do it on television. Clarissa Explains It All. Right. Those are, the Nicktoons, Doug, Rugrats, Ren and Stimpy. Those get their moment because those all, changed everything.
Right. So I know you and Adam kind of worked in conjunction with directing this. I don't know who did what for the actual documentary, but how did it come about, I guess, initially for this documentary to even take place, I guess, other than you guys just being fans?
Yeah. Well, Adam and I, we were certainly like you said, everybody our age. It's hard to find people that weren't kind of touched by Nickelodeon. But Adam and I, we had written some scripts in the past, and we kind of a process of trying to get somebody to fund your film and try to get a studio to pick it up and all yada yada yada, all the rigmarole. So we just said, let's make a film all by ourselves. And by that, I don't mean all by ourselves, because you can look at the credits and we had a lot of amazing producers and camera people and editors that worked on this. But I just mean we weren't at the mercy of somebody bigger funding it. This was all a film that we could make sure it got made. From writing it, directing it, and getting it out there. We could kind of control, see that through. And so we figured a documentary would be a good way to do that, because we knew we had those skills to make a documentary. We might not be able to make a sci-fi or an action film. Don't have the budget for that, but we knew we could make a documentary. I'm an editor and I have camera experience. Adam has journalistic experience. We can do this. And so that's what we did. And we thought, well, we knew we wanted to make a documentary. What do we make a documentary about? And we started thinking about stuff, and we're like, well, Nickelodeon was real special to both me and Adam. We were both latchkey kids. We were both children of divorced families. And in our trailer, Geraldine Laybourne talks about that, how that's really who she was trying to, these kids that were in front of a TV after school. Mom and dad were at work, or mom and dad were not living together. That's who she wanted to create a place for. And we were those kids. And also, Adam and I, he moved away. And, now it might not be as big of a deal, but this was, in the early 90s, where there was no social media. So Nickelodeon, we kind of credit it for keeping our friendship together, because we'd call each other up on Saturday night for Saturday Night Nick, which was called Snick. We'd call each other up and watch Are You Afraid of the Dark while we're talking on the phone. We're like, oh my God, did you see what happened? So it was personal, and it was something that we were passionate about. So we knew we had the skills and we knew we had the passion. So we dove into it head first. We kind of did everything wrong, but luckily it worked out, and we landed on our feet, and we worked with a lot of amazing people for this film. I liken me and Adam to Sam and Frodo in Lord of the Rings. It started with us, but we quickly established
kind of just branched out. Yeah.
A fellowship of people came after that to help make this thing. And pretty soon it wasn't just me and him. We were working with this really awesome, amazing cast of people from all different walks of life. And that's to me what brought it to life.
I did have a question, because I know there were a lot of interviews with people from the show, like the Keenan and Kels and all these guys. And now, did you guys get an opportunity to actually interview them directly, or was it like stock footage, or how did all that come about?
That's all our interview footage. We interviewed all of those people.
Got it.
And that was that was probably one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. How did you get all these people that, you know what I mean? I know some of the, Clarissa might have been easier to grab, or I don't know what she was doing, the girl, Melissa Hart, but I know Keenan's on Saturday Night Live, huge star, and all these big, blockbuster movies and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So I can imagine he wasn't the easiest guy to get a hold of, or some of the people weren't the easiest people to get a hold of all the way around. So.
And funny enough, I like to say this every time I can. You're absolutely right. Keenan's he's the busiest guy in the world, and he's also one of the biggest guys in the world. He's hosting the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards, and he got his own show, Keenan, that's coming out. And everybody was nice. Every single person was nice, but he was one of the nicest. You hope that good things happen to good people, and I think that guy's proof with his success that good things happen to a good guy, because that guy, I could talk all day about how nice he was. I always joke that if anybody could have been kind of a diva, he could have, because he's a huge star, and he was not at all. He was so nice, kind, welcoming, warm. I mean, just awesome. But that was one thing when we decided to do this documentary about 20 years of a network. we didn't really think that out too well of how hard it was going to be to book everybody, because we had to book a lot of people for it to feel real. You know, we had to book all these, you know, somebody from Clarissa, somebody from Are You Afraid of the Dark, you know, somebody from Double Dare, someone from Keenan and Kel, all that. You can't do it on television. And they don't all necessarily know each other. You know, it's kind of like if you did a documentary about a movie, you know, you just got to get that one cast. You know?
Exactly.
And then, but yeah, we you know, we had to book a lot of people, and they were people that didn't know each other. So it was really a chore. And we just did anything and everything we could to get people. We made a spreadsheet of if they had a Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, who was their manager, who was their agent, who was their publicist, and we would just do any way we could try to get a hold of them. But I will say that once we got the first like 10, the rest got a lot easier, because then people would be like, oh, I know somebody here. I'll put in a good word for you. And it got easier. And then once we were able to say, hey, we got Mark Summers, we got Keenan, we got Melissa Joan Hart, then people were like, okay, this seems like it's going to be a real thing.
Now it's legit. It's not just
now it's legit.
It's a couple guys in their basement trying to get something going.
Exactly.
Right.
It got a lot easier once we got them. And we had a great producer, Elisa Reyes, who was on the show All That. When we interviewed her, she was like, hey, I like what you guys are doing. I like your workflow. Can I come on and be a producer and help you guys? And we're like, yeah. And she really did. She booked a lot of interviews for us, because All That was filmed later when they started filming everything at Nickelodeon Studios.
Right.
So, you know, she knew everybody that was in All That. So that includes Keenan and Kel, but then also like Alex Mack and other people that were, you know, she knew people from other shows because they were all being filmed together. So she was able to book a lot of interviews for us and was really instrumental in getting some of those interviews booked for us.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. It's really cool to be able to network. And I know the challenge, because, you know, just like we had to find you guys, we got to find the pages on social media and that sort of stuff. So I know that can be a challenging process. And you know, we've also tried to line up other interviews with other stars, and it's like just trying to find them sometimes is can be tough. But I can imagine once you start getting one or two, it's a domino effect, because like you said, they all have agents, they all kind of know each other, and you know, they can always link you with somebody else that might be able to grab them. So that's really cool.
Once
How
you're
did,
not I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, once we weren't having to cold call and go through agents, like when it was like that, like, oh, let me call my friend who worked on the show with me, or, oh, I know a writer from that show, I'll call him for you. Once we weren't having to just call up a publicist and be like, hi, I'm looking for your client to be in a documentary, it got way easier.
I can imagine that for sure.
How did the two of you split up your tasks when you were making the movie?
Yeah, I mean, we just kind of went with what our strengths were. You know, we both brought different strengths to the film. So we kind of from the beginning knew what, you know, I'm an editor. That's what I do for a living. So I knew that was going to be, you know, a lot of what I, you know, needed to do. Adam's great at, you know, he's got a strong journalist background, a lot of marketing background and stuff like that. So he was able to run campaigns and talk to the press and stuff like that, all the stuff. I like doing this, but you know, like some of this stuff is just harder. Like that, it's not my forte.
Got it.
But yeah, like, you know, we just kind of we kind of just knew. We just knew like, oh, you do that and I do that, because that's why we decided to do this together, because we both had, you know, some skills that overlap, but then we also had our own that were separate.
That makes sense for sure. Cool. Yeah. So you said that you guys had worked on some other projects prior to this one. Then is that?
Yeah, I mean, we had written scripts, and we had heard, you know, the whole thing of, oh, this isn't what's hot right now, or, oh, we need you to change this, and this, or, oh, you know, we just kind of got tired of it, you know, and we wanted to just not worry about all the corporate big wig crap, and we just wanted to make something ourselves.
Exactly. It's kind of the best way to do it. And you know, Jason and I, when we were in college, we used to do little small projects and stuff like that. But it's probably easier if you're already friends and then you're kind of working together and you don't have to use all these additional resources, like you said, to make the big budget action films or sci-fi films and that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
I understand.
No, we were able to make the film, and we had a lot of people helping us, but nobody was telling us what to do. You know, no one was like,
that's kind of the best way.
You can get the funding, but you got to do this. So it was awesome. We worked with a lot of amazing producers. Like I said, Elisa Reyes, Bill Parks, Lee Leshin, Sean Coffin, a lot of awesome producers that we just met along the way, but they were all just working with us. No one was telling us
no one was
what
giving
you
you
have to do.
Right. They were maybe making suggestions here and there, but definitely not telling you, hey, you need to do this or this kind of thing.
Yeah. And when they gave us suggestions, it came from the heart. It was just like,
right.
hey, I think this film would be better if you did this. It wasn't like, it's really hot right now. It's
right.
If you add this,
right.
And I just don't, I hate that, and it was awesome to
kids are going to love it if you do this. You need to do this. No, I completely understand. How long did the entire process take from beginning to end?
So we got our money. We crowdfunded the first bit of it. Production, basically the bulk of production we crowdfunded. And then we just, from our producers, self-financed the last the last bit of production, and then also all of post-production, which for a documentary is the bulk of it, and so we it took us, we filmed it basically in 2017 and edited it in 2018, and then debuted it at the very end of 2018 at Doc NYC, awesome film festival out in New York. So that's when it finished.
Mm-hmm.
And then from November of 2018 till November of 2020, we were working on distribution deals.
Got it.
Kind of going back to that first thing that we aren't as crazy about. Is what took the longest. That's what I like to say is, when you're making a film, it's like production, post-production, and then finalizing it is almost like equal parts.
Right.
Like you're going to spend as much time doing each. Like we did not know that it was going to take that much time, to get a sale.
Yeah, everybody that we've interviewed has always talked to us about like post-production. Like they're like, yeah, we finished back in 2018, and it took 2 years in order to So yeah, absolutely.
It was a long road, but also you're looking for someone to give it a home, but also you want to find the right home. Like somebody who gets what you're doing and is excited about your film. And so I'm excited. We went with Gravitas Ventures. We had a couple of like horrible things happen to us while we were trying to sell it. Just people that are bigger than you trying to take advantage of you. But we stayed strong and didn't let that happen. I'm really proud of everybody for not cratering to some pretty horrible people that tried to do some horrible things. And we finally found a home with Gravitas, and they have the Ren and Stimpy doc.
Got it.
And they've got the Monster Squad doc. So I just thought this is a perfect home. I love what they do. I had some friends, my good friend Tommy Avalone, who's a fantastic filmmaker. He did the Bill Murray stories. He had sold some films to Gravitas. Our producer Lee Leshin had sold some films to Gravitas. So we were like, yeah, we already know you guys. We like what you do. You have the Ren and Stimpy doc. Let's just do this. And they're like, yeah, sure. So and they've done a great job of getting it out there.
Yeah, they seem to have kind of the market cornered a little bit on these kind of like really heartfelt, nostalgia-driven documentaries, because it seems like there's a lot of those these days. And lately, every time I press play, it's like it says Gravitas Pictures. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I know I'm in good hands. Yeah, like I watched the Monster Squad documentary recently, which was awesome. And the Ren and Stimpy one is on my watch list, but I haven't got to it yet. So yeah, nice.
It's awesome. Anytime people look at our doc, because our doc really is, it's a fun. We wanted to like lift people up. Yeah, all these people that work behind the scenes that you don't know. We wanted to lift them up. Like with Mr. Rogers, he's such an amazing person, but he was in front of the camera, so you kind of already knew he was. You go watch the Mr. Rogers doc, and that's one of my favorite docs. I love that.
Yes.
And you already know he's awesome. You're finding out he's even more awesome. But the people in our doc are people we're trying to give credit to that were behind the camera. That basically shaped your whole childhood.
Yeah, they're the ones that basically made all these shows, and all the producers and all the people behind the scenes that you don't hear about, you don't get to see, but you remember all the shows that they created and they produced and that sort of stuff, but you never get to see the little guys.
Yes. So, we're trying to lift them up and celebrate them. And for any, some people are like, oh man, your doc doesn't have enough dirt and stuff like that. I'm like, well, luckily the Ren and Stimpy doc has a lot, and I love that doc. Those guys did an awesome job with that documentary.
Yeah.
And And I say, well, watch the Ren and Stimpy one.
Yeah, you guys are doing something more positive and uplifting and a little different. And there's room for everybody for that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, I agree. People, for some reason, like with comic book films, people are always like, oh, do you like the Christopher Nolan Batman films or do you like the Avengers Bright films? I'm like, I like both.
Yeah, right. There's room for everything. You know what I mean?
There's room for everything.
Yeah. You don't have to. I know. It's always like this thing, and we do the same thing where we debate and that sort of stuff. And it's just like you know, you don't always have to pick sides. You could just say, hey, I enjoy both of them. As long as the film's good, I'm gonna love it. You know what I mean? I don't care if it's more uplifting or more, more seedy and getting into the nitty gritty in terms of all the negative stuff. And there's nothing wrong with either one of those, but I did enjoy your doc because it was a little bit more uplifting, and it was just fun. It was just like a fun time capsule of nostalgia where anybody that grew up in that decade, could really get something out of it. And like you said, like a lot of the newer stuff, I personally didn't know a lot of the stuff that was like, as I got older, I didn't watch a lot of, the Rugrats and stuff like that. I didn't get into quite as much of that, but I still had heard of those shows. So it was still fun, even in that sense. Even, if I didn't necessarily grow up and remember that as a staple of my childhood, it was still fun to be like, oh, that's right, I do remember that show. I forgot that was on Nickelodeon. So,
that's what we were trying to do. That's what we wanted to do. So it's like, if people don't like it, I'm fine with that, because you're not liking it for a reason that I intended. We didn't try to do something seedy and dark. We just wanted to lift people up and give people something to smile and maybe feel good for an hour and a half. And hopefully, some things you didn't know. So yeah, we're happy with it. I like it. So thank you guys for watching it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The kind words. Yeah,
absolutely. Anything else you wanted to add, Jason?
No, just thanks for sending me back down memory lane, and I enjoyed I did a little bit of it sent me on a little bit of a dive afterwards, because I was looking up all these actors that I had completely forgotten about, seeing what they were up to now, and it was a really enjoyable experience. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it is cool to see where they all are now in their lives. I think it's cool how some have continued on, like Kenan Thompson, Melissa Joan Hart, Elisa Reyes. Some have not. They've gone on to and done totally different, amazing things with their life. It's just acting wasn't their thing. So it's cool to see people in all different walks of life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, again, like I said, we definitely appreciate you taking time to let us chat with you for a little bit about the film and the creation. Any future projects you're working on or anything of that nature.
Yeah, currently I'm in the middle of post-production for a documentary about the band Gwar, and
I saw that.
It's really fun. I'm really proud of how it's coming along. I know some people are like Nickelodeon to Gwar. It's like, well, there's more similarities than you think. One, I'm getting slimed in both. I got and then it's just a story. I love stories of people that kind of the world told them you can't do that, and they said I can and I will and I'm going to do it, and I don't care what you say. Absolutely. I just love, and that's what the Nickelodeon people did, and that's what Gwar has done. Gwar started whenever the hair bands were big, and they didn't do that, and then they continued on through the 90s when grunge was big, and they didn't do that, and then rap rock and pop punk got big, and they just continued doing their own thing through all. You see how many trends have come and gone out of fashion while they've just continued to do their Gwar thing, and they're really inspiring. It's going to be a really it's not what people are going to expect from a Gwar doc. It's not going to feel like a heavy metal doc at all.
Nice. Yeah, Gwar is Gwar, and Gwar will always be Gwar. Yeah, I'm a lifelong heavy metal fan.
Cool.
But Gwar is one of those bands that I always know them because you can't mistake them, but I've never explored there. And sometimes it takes a documentary to send me why haven't I gotten into this band yet? And then that'll send me, maybe your documentary will be what sends me down that rabbit hole.
I hope so, because that was my goal from the very beginning. I was like, this is something that's really cool. Why are more people not into this? Because it's like they took sci-fi and comic books and Dungeons and Dragons and then Spinal Tap and mixed it all together into this really fun, cool, there's this whole backstory of how Gwar was banished to Earth millions of years ago because they sucked so bad. They came here, and then they had sex with apes, and that's where humans came from. We're all descendants of Guar. And then they got banished to Antarctica, where they were frozen in ice. And then humans messed up the ozone layer, and they got thawed out. So now they've come back to wreak havoc on the children they created. It's just what a crazy, weird story that's just so bizarre. And they make all those costumes themselves. You know, they don't have somebody else do it. Like, they make them, and the whole way they spew blood in the audience, they build all those crazy contraptions. They're like engineers to be able to do all that. So it's really cool. And that's what I told him from the very beginning. I was like, I just don't want to make a doc that feels like a heavy metal doc, because that's really not what they are. They're really not a heavy metal band. They have more in common with like something like Monty Python, you know. But the irony is they're a good metal band, even though they kind of started out parodying like Spinal Tap, the same way Spinal Tap kind of makes fun of the excesses of rock and roll. That's what they're doing. But the irony is they're like really good. But Spinal Tap is really good too. Like, when you listen to Spinal Tap, it's like these guys actually can play better than like a lot of bands can.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, any kind of any parody has got to be a good example of what it's parodying to be good. Yes. You know, like Spinal Tap, like the Ruddles. I don't know if you're familiar with the Ruddles at all. Like, they're kind of like the Monty Python Beatles parody, but they're like an exceptional pop band, and like you have to like enjoy it and get the joke at the same time for it to really work. Tenacious D, another example.
Perfect example.
So,
yeah. We got to interview Weird Al for the Guar documentary.
Oh, nice. Awesome!
And that was
one of my personal heroes.
Oh my God! And he's another one like Kenan Thompson.
Just a really nice guy. Yeah,
totally nice. And that guy just like, he can turn it on like that. He came in and he was so nice, but he wasn't like Weird Al. He's like, "Hi guys, I'm Al." It's like, duh, you know, like. And he's like, "Hi, thank you so much." And he sits down, and he kind of sits down. And I'm like, "Okay, so, you know, tell me what you know about Guar." He's like, "So Guar, they're these barbarians who are banned," you know? And just immediately it went from just standing like, "Hi guys, I'm really excited to do this," to like, "Okay, so here's the deal. The Guar are barbarian. They're the scumdogs of the universe, banished to Earth." But he was so awesome. But he talks about that because, you know, Weird Al is the same way. Like, you listen to the production on his albums, and it's good. It has it's the juxtaposition of silliness with actual real craftsmanship that makes it good. You got to have a little bit of both.
Exactly.
You know?
I agree.
I'm a big fan. I always tell people, don't ignore Weird Al's original songs. Like, the parodies are great, but every album he's put out, he's had several really well done original songs. Like, there's a song called Skipper Dan on Alpocalypse, which is one of the best songs I've ever heard, and it's just a totally original song. So yeah, he's a genius, I think.
When I was a kid, I loved remember the Transformers movie that came out in the late 80s, the cartoon?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
It has an awesome soundtrack. If you ever get a chance to check it out, it's like all really triumphant 80s music. But there's a Weird Al song on there called "Dare to Be Stupid," and I love that ever since I was a little kid. That was the first time I was like, "Whoa, Weird Al writes his own songs, and this is awesome!" Like, I had the cassette when I was a kid, and I would go jam that, you know, going "Dare to Be Stupid," you know, go around listening to that. It's so awesome.
That's awesome, man. For sure. Awesome. Well, Scott, is there anything else that you wanted to add before we let you go? Anything you want anybody to know, or website or anything of that nature? Or
sure. You know, I mean, the main place to follow us is on Instagram. That's kind of where we're most active, and it's just the Orange Years.
Yeah.
We're on Facebook and Twitter, but, you know, every now and then we do, you know, little giveaways and stuff like that. So just check us out on there. And, you know, like I said, Gravitas, that's our distribution company. They've done a great job of getting this out there. So right now it's pretty much anywhere you like to watch movies. Amazon, iTunes, Vudu, Google Play.
We found you guys on Amazon. So yeah, definitely.
It's everywhere. So whatever your drug of choice for renting digital films, it's probably there. So
absolutely.
Thank you to everybody that watches it. It means so much. And
Yeah.
it takes us back, because, you know, Nickelodeon felt like this thing we were all experiencing together. Kids all over the world of every different background. We were all doing it together. And whenever we hear people, like, we love hearing from people, you know, like, oh man, this brought me back. I always wanted to be on Guts. You know, it just is so awesome. So thanks to everyone that that watches it and comments. You know, even if you didn't like it, we love hearing from you.
No, absolutely. Well, once again, we can't thank you enough for joining us today. Like I said, we'll definitely be looking forward to any future projects that you have, and maybe we'll have you back on the show again once you wrap up some of those other projects. Love to talk with you about that again. And then, just as always, definitely check these guys out. I found them on Instagram, so you guys can definitely look up the Orange Years as well on Instagram. And like I said, they do give some giveaways and things of that nature as well. We thank you guys for watching. Obviously, if you like our channel, we ask that you like and subscribe to SacTown Movie Buffs, and we'll be back again with another show for you guys again real soon. We thank you again, and hope you have a great day.